This meeting is now called to order. This is the Intergovernmental Committee meeting for July 13th, 2026. I am the chair, Council Member Shanae Darby for the 2nd District. At this time, I will call the roll for the members of the committee first. We have myself as president. I know Council Member Johnson is absent with leave at a conference. We have Council Member Willauer here, present, and Councilmember Oliver, is she online? All right. And then Council President Congo, is he on yet? All righty. Are there any other council members online? All righty. All right, so as they're joined, I'll announce when they are here. Once roll call, as a friendly reminder, only members of the committee should be making motions and seconding. Remember that you can sign up for public comment. Public comment is 3 minutes. After we do a few presentations tonight to give the community an update on where we are on a city around police reform, we then will give the mic over to the community to hear from you guys and to listen to you guys on what you need around police reform and listening to you. So we can go ahead and proceed with the agenda for tonight. I do want to say that the administration was invited to be a part of this committee meeting for both of us to sit down and give the community an update about police reform in our city and what we can do and what we have done so far. They declined to be here tonight, so I want you to know that invite was extended. The invite was extended to all 12, it's 13 of us, but all 12 other council members to be here tonight. We are on a city council break. So Thursday was our last meeting, and then we do return back in August sometime. So August 20th. We do return back in August 20th, but I felt like this was too important to wait till August 20th upon our return. So I'm happy for the council members who can attend and be a part of this conversation. Again, the purpose is twofold: to provide information to the community and also to hear from the community. I do want to say, I know recently we had a police shooting of Kadir Skinner. I do want to say justice for Kadir Skinner and to release the body cam footage. But tonight, the bigger conversation is going to be about police reform and how government plays a role in that. We aren't the answer, but we are a part of the answer to dealing with police violence in our community. So I am going to pass the mic over to Carlton Myers. He is an attorney and has Myers Strategic Solutions, LLC. Council and the administration has been in communications with this entity to come and do an external audit on the City of Wilmington's police department. There has been numerous resolutions, numerous presentations with both administrations, one-on-ones, group meetings with each council members, that there needed to be police reform. It is sad that we have to wait for a tragedy to happen for people to want to take action. But I do want you to know, the 6 years I've been here, there has been a push, I know from my end and maybe 2 or 3 other council members, for police reform to be an important discussion for our council. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Mr. Mayers. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Chairwoman Darby, as well as the other members of the Wilmington City Council. What I'm going to do is, and good afternoon, everybody. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my slides with you. I'm going to take off my camera so that you can focus on this presentation that I've put together for you today. Thank you. Okay, so like I said earlier, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak with you today. As you can see here on my bio slide, my name is Carlton T. Mayers II, Esquire. I'm a national community development and safety expert, and through my consulting company, Mayers Strategic Solutions, LLC, I use my nearly 20 years of experience as a community lawyer to assist communities nationwide to solve community development and safety challenges by using the CAP method, which stands for C for community empowerment, A for accountability, and T for transparency. With the CAP method, I work with communities across the country to identify, strategize, and implement long-term and constructive changes in practices, policies, and cultures. Now, just a little bit of background on me. I used to direct NAACP National's Criminal Justice Reform Program for the country back when Ben Jealous was president. After him, President Cornell William Brooks. While I was at NAACP National Office, I co-authored NAACP National's Born Suspect, Ending Racial Profiling Report, published in 2014, provides all kinds of information on how to end racial profiling by state and local police. After that, I to NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund Incorporated, Thurgood Marshall's law firm, where I worked under Sherilyn Ifill as an attorney, more specifically as the policy counsel for the policing reform campaign. In that role, I was there for about 3 years, and I worked on the Ferguson, Missouri, and Baltimore, Maryland consent decrees for 3 years each, from negotiation through implementation. We also did our own pattern of practice investigation of the North Charleston, South Carolina Police Department after Walter Scott's death. And I also lobbied on the Hill for federal policing reform legislation, a lot of which is now incorporated in the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. And then lastly, I did at least 5 years worth of work with President Barack Obama's administration, both his White House and DOJ, on several different policing reform initiatives. This was when I was at NAACP National, respectively, as well as at the Legal Defense Fund. And most notably, when I was working with President Barack Obama's administration, I worked on the 21st Century Policing Task Force Report recommendations. Next slide, please. Okay, and so, like I said earlier, what I do is I work with communities across the country on advancing the CAP method. And as you can see here on the slide, the CAP method consists of 3 components. Each component must be achieved in order for the CAP method to be successful. Next slide. So for time's sake, I'm not going to go through each component with you, but what I will say is this. Number one, beyond what you see on the slide, just understand that the crux of the CAP method is to make sure that community members, especially those who are living in neighborhoods, zip codes, blocks, and areas in the community where you have a history of crime happening, you have, as well as that happening at the same time, you have issues with the environment, you have issues with health, you have issues with the economy. All of these challenges are happening at the same time in these zip codes, blocks, and areas in the community, as well as a history of negative police interactions, like racial profiling, excessive use of force, etc. So what do we say and what do we do to make sure that the individuals who are living in these zip codes, blocks, and areas feel safe? How do we empower them? Well, according to the CAP method, we do that by, number one, making sure that they're involved in, number two, that they have knowledge of, number three, that they have some level of decision-making authority over all direct police-civilian interactions, like stops, arrests, uses of force, surveillance technologies, as well as demonstrations like First Amendment demonstrations and protests, etc. The reason being is that the people closest to the problems are also the people closest to the solutions. So if we want to have long-term solutions for long-term problems, we have to make sure that the people most directly impacted by community development and safety challenges are at the helm of decision-making, depending on if it's appropriate or not, based on that community, to work with law enforcement or not to work with them. That is based on that particular community. Every community is different. However, they definitely have to work with the other community development and safety stakeholders, as you're going to see on the next slide. Next slide, please. So as you see on this slide, number one, if you could just do one click. Okay, first, what we have when it comes to aspects of the community, and we're talking about them working together as one community. Like I said, it depends on the community. That would include law enforcement, so that's the sheriff's office, state and local police. Next click. Then we have government officials, both elected and appointed, as well as their employees. Next click. We have community members, like directly impacted community members, like I just talked about, direct service providers, community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, private business, etc. And then last but not least, next click, we have the local press and news media. So according to the CAP method, all four of these aspects of the community would need to work together in some way, shape, or form that is custom tailored for their particular community based on their demographics, their history, their culture, so that they can work together interconnected and coordinated way together as one community to support community development and safety and ensure public accountability through more so proactive rather than reactive strategies. And so, next slide, please. And understand that as it relates to Wilmington Police Department, when I'm doing this assessment, something else that was on the slide 2 slides ago, is that when I work with law enforcement, it's all about the professionalization and modernization, meaning that law enforcement, at least my engagement with them, they don't like to be seen as being thugs with badges. They don't like to be seen as being anything derogatory. They like to be seen as being professionals. I'm an attorney, I have a license, right? A doctor is a doctor of practice, they have a license. The license shows that we are professionals and we adhere to professional standards. Law enforcement also have a license, and so they like to be seen as professionals as well. So I focus on, okay, how can we make you more professionalized as well as more modernized, looking at AI, technology, the way that community engage amongst each other, as well as with law enforcement, considering technology. How do we make sure that everybody's coming up and empowered together? And so what I want to show you here real quick is just a real quick short video of how I work with communities through the CAP method. And one way that I do my assessments, which is what I'm trying to hopefully work with you on doing in Wilmington, is that I like to work directly with the primary source, being, like I mentioned earlier, those different aspects of the community. How do we get them to come together, break down the silos, and start focusing on solutions and not just the challenges? And one thing I've done is I've been able to incorporate the CAP method I laid out earlier with interactive technology to be able to have these discussions using your Wi-Fi device, like a cell phone, a laptop or tablet, rather than chalkboard and easel paper. And that's good because now meetings become more accessible, right? Because now you could do them in person, you could do them virtually, you could do them hybrid. And when people submit answers into the interactive technology, people see the responses on the big screen. What they don't see is who submitted the answers. Everything is anonymous. Oh, can you please put the slide back up? Because I'm about to show the video. Thank you very much. Everything is anonymous. And so what that means is that people are more candid. They give you more information. You get more data. Okay. Now, the other good thing, oh, no, don't click yet, please. Thank you. Almost there. The other good thing is that with the technology, it also allows you at the end of the session, all the data, all the responses get translated onto an Excel spreadsheet. So now you can copy and paste it onto a Word document, onto a PowerPoint, use it for assessments, initiatives, laws, policies, etc. So what I want to show you here before it gets clicked on, just to give you a quick description, these are 3 different communities that I've worked with using the CAP method and interactive technology. One is virtual, one is hybrid, and one is in person around youth violence. And we did a roundtable discussion with young people on that and law enforcement. So please click on it and then we'll come back. Thank you.
He is a civil rights attorney. He does police reform and training, as I mentioned, public safety as well, to police departments around the country. We're so happy to have him join us. Carlton, I'll give it to you. You take it away. We're all learning from you right now.
It's like Twitter. So when you submit the answer in real time, the answer is up on the screen that we all can see. What is not on the screen, as what Tanisha just mentioned, is your name. It's all anonymous, okay? And the more that people submit the same answer, the bigger that the words appear on the screen. And so that's why you'll see some words that are bigger than others. It's giving us in real time a gauge of what people's opinions are related to the question. So we have 50 seconds left. When we end, I'll come back to you and we'll go through the responses. Thank you.
So I wanted to point out, like, for exhausted, like, I do really heavily agree with that, because it's every day I go on social media or like TikTok and I see these videos of incidents where there's people, like, you know, they interact with cops. It always goes wrong, where they end up getting arrested, or in the cop seeing the bad light, or the person seeing the bad light.
All right.
Really appreciate y'all having this conversation, man. It was needed.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you.
It was needed. It was needed.
There were some other ones here. Great, awesome, excellent session. Excellent. Want to do this again. Great conversation. Had a great time. Amazing webinar. Phenomenal session. Please do this again. And Very informative. This was so informative, excellent information and dialogue, and educational. What have you experienced as a barrier to police accountability? We got 2 minutes, so I'm gonna let y'all send your responses for the next 2 minutes, and then when it's done, we're gonna come back and have a conversation about it, all right?
And I have watched the police, even though they're kind and caring, they do not know how to deal with people who have mental health issues or in the middle of a crisis, whether they're exact or not, whether they're nonverbal or whether they're acting out. So they don't get enough training, and it's not their fault. Y'all don't give them enough training to deal with people who have mental health issues. Their job is to protect and serve, and they treat mental health patients like criminals because they don't know anything different. And I'm not blaming them. I'm blaming the training or the structure that should have a mental health professional when you get a mental health call.
Other city decision makers, not just the council, as far as I can tell, they're not hearing or they're not listening to the kinds of comments that I'm hearing in this room about, for instance, the disparity between neighborhoods and so forth. So I don't think they're really understanding where the issues are.
So thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
I think that it's so important to have positive interactions with youth, and make sure that we are connecting with them in times when they're not under duress, we're not under duress, because then we can have some of these conversations and break down these barriers. If we want to make some of these changes moving forward, it's important for them to have a relationship with us where they feel, one, like we are here for everybody in the city, which we are.
Yeah.
And two, that they can come to us at any point and report these kind of things, because that's how we prevent tragedies moving forward.
Absolutely. I love it, Erin. Well, listen, thank you so much for being here.
I thought tonight was very beneficial and important for us. So we can speak up and use our voice, change our community day by day. So we are the future of tomorrow.
Okay, you can click over. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So you got to see an example, 3 different examples of how I utilize the CAP method with interactive technology to solve community development and safety challenges. Now, that's something I like to do with Wilmington and try to incorporate it into an assessment. I want to give you an example real quick here of a video of an assessment I did of the Civilian Oversight Authority, who's responsible for overseeing the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department's activities, and asked me to come in and do an assessment of their engagement with the Nashville community, provide findings and recommendations. So I ended up structuring it in the way that you're going to see in this very short video. Click, please.
So we had a assessment.
Oh, it's going to be the one before that. You have the backspace.
He is a criminal justice reformist.
So for today's presentation, I will focus on 3 prioritization areas of engagement related to the COB and MNCO. As shown on the right side of the slide, you can see MNCO COB engagement with the community, engagement with government entities and organizations, engagement with MNCO office and departments. Now, like I said, I did the presentation yesterday. I focused on the government entities and MNCO office and departments. So for today's presentation, we're just going to focus on MNCO and COB engagement with the community, okay? Now, due to time constraints, which are very short right now, I will only focus on the one highlighted prioritization area, being with community. And each prioritization area of engagement is broken down into 7 categories, as you could see on the left side of the slide, being structure, communication, risk liability, optics, time, capacity, and resources. Now, what I'm thinking is if I were to end up working with you on this assessment, that we would possibly do the listening sessions first with members of the community. And I'm talking about maybe specific zip codes where we invite them for a listening session, maybe hybrid or virtual or in person, whatever you think is appropriate, as well as with your law enforcement at the Wilmington Police Department, to also get their information, because they serve these communities, right? Everybody's directly impacted in that way, that when something violent or traumatic happens, it's not just the people that live in the community that see it, it's also law enforcement who show up to the scene that see that as well. So everybody's dealing with this. So if we're able to have listening sessions to figure out what would be the best structure based on what your community members, your law enforcement, all the input they provide, then we can structure out the assessment from there. That's one way to do it. Now, I want you to go to the next slide. This is the last video. It's really short. I'm going to show you before we wrap it up. And this is going to give you a good idea of what I envision for how this assessment would look if we were to incorporate the assessment work I did in Nashville with the listening session video I showed you a little earlier. Can we move to the next slide, please? And it's going to be the second video. If you can maybe switch over and click on that one, please. Thank you.
New tonight at 10, Talahir Mohadeen shares how they're connecting with the city's neighbors.
An attempt to reimagine public safety, starting with this meeting, bringing police and community members together.
To bring about the kind of change that you want to see.
I'm really interested in any time residents come together to be able to express themselves.
At Village Square Library, this is the 14th community listening session put on by the Milwaukee Police Department and their partners to hear from people who lived in each of the city's 15 aldermanic districts.
To be honest, we would like more community participation. This one, though, today is amazing.
The facilitator is asking participants a series of questions around public safety and inviting participants, including some officers, to anonymously send their responses online before engaging in an open discussion.
Community-oriented policing is the only way policing should be done. It looks like police who attend community events, police who are interacting with children, police who are walking the beat and know neighbors by their first names.
A lot of those officers live in the city. I live in the city. My aldermanic district listening session is next month. So I want a voice because I'm a resident. And there's certain things I want to feel safe too that they don't have anything to do with the police.
MPD Administration Bureau Assistant Chief Nicole Waldner says the purpose here is to take the feedback given and create a citywide community policing plan. And she says they're relying on the expertise of the Wisconsin Policy Forum, a nonpartisan research group, to help them get it right.
They've attended each meeting, they take notes and from what the community members say, and they're going to generate a report.
But also says the work doesn't stop there.
To get a good slice of the population and the makeup of the city, we're going to have to continue these listening sessions with different groups for a while, but still implement the things that we're learning as we go.
In Milwaukee, Tahlil Mohadeen, TMJ4 News.
Please go to the next slide. So what I want to just say is that
New tonight at 10, Talahir Mohadeen.
So, next slide, it's the next one. Thank you. So in 2020, I was hired by the city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to work with the mayor's office, the Office of Violence Prevention, the Milwaukee Police Department, their Civilian Oversight Authority, as well as NAACP, some at-risk youth community-based organizations, as well as in-crisis mental health organizations and some others, on helping them to develop what they call a citywide public safety plan to address both community violence as well as police accountability in one plan instead of doing this separately, because they both feed into each other. If people don't trust to call police when they know a violent incident happens in the community, they don't want to pick up the phone and dial 911 because they believe police are going to show up and start harassing people and not actually doing good policing, they're not going to call 911. And that means that the crime, the person committing it, is going to do it again and again. That means public safety goes down and crime goes up. So if you want people to work with law enforcement and pick up that phone and give you the information you need to solve crimes, they have to trust you. They have to have confidence in you. So we have to work on police accountability. So we decided to do it together, and we did 16 public safety listening sessions, one per aldermanic district. There's 15 aldermanic districts in Milwaukee. Instead of doing 3 big town hall meetings, we made it very granular by doing it, like I mentioned earlier, by zip code, block, and area, getting those specific details for those areas on the challenges and solutions. And then lastly, what I'll say about it is that what we ended up doing, as you can see here, I worked with the Wisconsin Policy Forum on generating the report. Common Ground is published. It's on my website. I can provide you the link for that. It's also on their website, so you could Google it. And in there, you could see a couple of findings that you see here on the bullets. Just a couple of them I want to highlight. Number one, the first one, the public safety listening session showed that residents' views of public safety are broader than law enforcement and include well-lit streetlights, walkable sidewalks, and clean neighborhoods, et cetera. Meaning that anytime they have an issue with the sidewalk or with lights not working properly, they don't call the proper local government agency. They call 911, police show up and they do what they do. And that also causes issues. So by having these sessions and this assessment I did with them, we were able to better connect the dots on the resources to the people in the community and law enforcement. Number two, if you look at the third bullet, highlights resident-led policymaking to increase the level of civilian involvement in police department policy development beyond oversight and police misconduct. Now, what that means is that the taxpayers are actually involved in the activities of the people they're paying for. We're paying for your pension. We're paying for your salary. We need to know what you're doing with the money, okay? How are you acting? Or is that something that we're okay with? And if not, what are we gonna do about it? We were able, through using interactive technology in the CAP method and the assessment I did with Wisconsin Policy Forum, we were able to connect the dots on all of this. So that's something, just the next slide, last one. That's something that I propose to do with you. And just one last thing I'll say about that, when it comes to the assessment itself, what will be different from Nashville when it comes to Wilmington will be, with Wilmington, I'm gonna look at the Wilmington Police Department's policies, trainings, as well as their supervision, and any other related activities, including hiring and selection and retention, all of it looking at how they engage with the community. How can we empower the community as well as law enforcement together in a way that we're connecting the resources that already exist much more effectively? So thank you so much. And if you wanna reach out to me, you can scan the QR code, take you to the website. The website is www.mayorsolutions.org with 2 S's. You can also reach me at the word empower at mayorsolutions.org. You can reach me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at the handles provided. So thank you, and please do stay in touch.
No, thank you, Mr. Myers. If you could stay on just for a few minutes, I do need to make a few announcements real quick. I want to acknowledge Council President Congo and Council Member Owens who came in during the presentation. I also want to announce that public comment sign-in sheet should be somewhere for you guys to sign in. I think right there if you need to make any public comments. If you could stick around, I don't know if anyone may have any questions for you about the external audit that you can do for the city. And I also want to acknowledge that Chief Campos, the police of chief, he's also online listening in. So he is online. And before I open it up to my council colleagues, or we should just go to the next presentation? What you think? Do everything at the end? Yeah. But before we move to the next presentation, I do want to say that Mr. Carlton did provide a proposal in 2025 that has been passed on to the administration. A resolution has been passed to urge the administration to act, and it hasn't happened yet. So we're waiting for that to happen because it's an administration implementation plan that has to be done. And also, we have a Wilmington Community Police Accountability Board. I'm looking for Mr. Carlton to be able to connect with them to present. Councilmember Chris Johnson, he worked on establishing a community police accountability board for our community, which is supposed to take in complaints from the community about the police department. However, they can't subpoena or really hold police accountable because our state elected officials, when they did Leo Board reform, which is the Law Enforcement Bill of Rights, they did not allow for that to happen. So I do want to move to the next presentation, which is Police Scorecard. They will be able to look at the national evaluation of U.S. police agencies and talk specifically about Wilmington. What I really love about this organization, and we'll hear more about them, is they collect data about every single police department in the country, and they talk about some really concerning disparities that exist, police funding, they talk about police violence, police accountability, and approach to law enforcement. Wilmington Police Department has a 33% score. So we're not, so based on the data that they evaluate, as they'll talk, you'll see that we have a lot of work to do. So I don't know if the police scorecard people are here.
Yes. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we do hear you.
Perfect. So my name is Samuel Sinyangwe, founder of the Police Scorecard. We are a national organization and evaluation of policing in the United States. If we could go to the next slide, please. So I got into this work over 10 years ago in the aftermath of the shooting of Mike Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. At that time, it became clear in the days and weeks and months after Mike Brown was killed by the police that there wasn't a whole lot of data being shared by law enforcement agencies when it comes to police use of force, police violence, and police accountability. And that goes all the way from local police departments all the way up to the federal government and the FBI and their data collection programs. So to give you a sense, the federal government could tell you how much rainfall there was in rural Oklahoma going back over 100 years. They still to this day will not report credible, reliable data on how many people are killed by the police or shot by the police or otherwise harmed by the police. My work really began collecting that information, compiling that information, working with researchers and policymakers and organizers across the country to share that information and to close those gaps of knowledge and research so that communities could better be informed and that policymakers would have the data that they needed to fix that problem. If we could go to the next slide. So my work began by building Mapping Police Violence, which was the most comprehensive database of people killed by the police in the United States. Through the methodology that I developed, I was able to document over 1,200 people killed by police every single year across the country. This is what that looks like on a map, a single year's worth of killings by the police. Now, I should note that up until this point, I built this about 10 years ago. Up until that point, the FBI had said that there were about 300 people killed by police in a given year. This showed that the actual number was about 4 times that many. But what became clear after collecting information and data and documenting the stories and the cases where people were being killed by the police across the country was that for every person killed by the police, there are so many other people who interact with police who may experience non-fatal police use of force, who may experience other interactions that they file complaints about, that otherwise need to result in some sort of accountability or change when it comes to policy and systems behavior. And so if we could go to the next slide. So my organization establishes and has built an ecosystem of data to better track all of those different indicators of police violence, police accountability, and other police contact so that communities can be better informed and be part of pushing for accountability in a data-driven way. We have 3 major platforms, data platforms, that we work from. One is our year-end police violence report that is focused on people who are killed by the police at policeviolence.org. We do an analysis every single year, breaking down the encounters that lead to those outcomes. What we find is that the majority of cases in which people are killed by the police stem from nonviolent, low-level call types or other encounters. For example, traffic stops, mental health crises, low-level domestic disturbances and other cases that we've seen other cities develop responses to that don't involve the police, that certainly don't involve an armed police officer going to the scene, and that are already proving that they can be effective in approaching that without an armed police response. The platform you see on the right there, policedata.org, is the newest platform we launched focused specifically on police use of force. My organization files public records requests to thousands of different law enforcement agencies across the country. There are about 18,000 police departments in America. We file requests to every city and county with 50,000 or more population and a nationally representative sample of smaller cities and counties as well, because it's often the smaller places, rural places and towns where issues are often swept under the rug and don't really get national attention and scrutiny. And then finally, the nationwide police scorecard platform, which I'll talk about today, is really an attempt to provide a sort of 30,000-foot view, expansive analysis of an overview of policing in over 16,000 jurisdictions across the country. So that includes over 3,000 different sheriff's departments and about 13,000 local police departments. We cover all 50 states, and we collect information from a variety of different sources. That includes federal sources where they're available. So the federal government doesn't do a good job tracking police use of force, but they do have data collection programs. For example, the Census Bureau has the annual survey of state and local government finances, which tracks how much money local municipalities are spending on a variety of things, including policing and health and housing, how much money they're raising in revenue from fines and fees on residents. We're also able to leverage data collection programs like the LEOCA database that the FBI runs, which tracks the number of law enforcement officers in police departments across the country. There are arrest data as well we're able to leverage and incorporate in our analysis. And then also what we do our own public records requests, collecting information not only on police use of force, but also on civilian complaints of police misconduct and the outcomes of those complaints. So we filed requests to thousands of different jurisdictions across the country. To my knowledge, it is one of, if not the largest, data collections across the country of law enforcement data, and especially of police accountability and use of force data. So we could go to the next slide. So before I dive into Wilmington in particular and the data that we've collected about policing in Wilmington, I want to note that this data is important not only in the information that we're able to collect and make available in our own analysis, but by making that data public, by putting it online, by allowing for researchers and policymakers and community members to look up their own cities and counties and see the data themselves and access the source data as well. We've seen researchers and journalists and community members take that information and build upon it and learn more about issues impacting their own communities and also develop solutions. So here are three studies that have leveraged various aspects of data on police violence that I've been involved in collecting. And that information has found a number of things. So there have been studies that have taken the data and shown that not only the individual that experiences police violence, like we can track how many cases there are police use of force or police shootings, but what's more difficult to document and what's also as important is how families and community members are impacted by that violence, in addition to the individual who's directly impacted by that violence. So what we find is that in communities that have higher rates of police violence, beyond the individual who experiences that police use of force, there are higher overall suicide rates in communities that have higher rates or elevated rates of police violence, particularly in Black communities. We find that communities, especially Black communities, face worse mental health outcomes in the aftermath of a police shooting. We also find that homicide clearance rates are lower following a police shooting. So again, like these are population level impacts. Entire communities are negatively impacted by these individual shootings or police use of force incidents. And it makes it all the more important for us to develop solutions and to fight for a world in which we're really free from police violence. We're reducing police violence measurably over time and getting to a place where communities are truly safe. If we go to the next slide. So the police scorecard. So this is at policescorecard.org. It is a public site. You can look up any one of the 16,000 jurisdictions, including Wilmington. And the way that this works, we calculate a score. It is a percentile score and it's a comparative score from 0 to 100%, 100% being the highest, 0 being the lowest score. And this is comparative. So what we're doing is we're comparing how police departments fare on a range of different indicators that impact communities compared to other police departments of similar size and type. So we're comparing sheriff's departments to one another, local municipal police departments to one another, and we're comparing them also on the basis of the size of the population of their jurisdiction. So cities with 250,000 or more population are compared to one another. Cities between 100,000 and 249,000 population are compared to one another. 50 to 100,000 are compared to one another, and then 50 or lower are compared to one another. So we wanted to create reasonable benchmarks where you can look up your own city and see, compared to similar cities, how are we doing? And in particular, there are many different sort of schools of thought about policing and police accountability in general. Ranging from, the police shouldn't exist on the one hand to, the police should be reformed or maybe continue doing what they're doing on the other side of the spectrum. But overall, what we sought to do with the police scorecard is to build a set of benchmarks and metrics that reflect, to the best of our ability, a common understanding of general goals that policing should achieve when it comes to accountability. We think that in general, across the spectrum, there's agreement that, when that police should, to the greatest extent possible, use less force. They should, in particular, not have, extreme racial disparities or disparate force against different communities. Communities should be treated equitably. We think that, if somebody comes forward and files a complaint against a police officer, that there should be some possibility of accountability and discipline on that police officer as a result of that complaint. And we think that police departments should focus on the most serious issues that really impact public safety, things like murders and violent crime, and not spend all of their resources, public resources, harassing or arresting and imposing real costs on community members for low-level nonviolent issues that alternative responses can be even more effective at dealing with, issues that involve substance use, mental health issues, and other things that frankly other systems should be responding to and can respond to better. And that police agencies should, and that cities and counties should be able to do all of those things to accomplish those goals at the best possible value to the taxpayer as possible. So for the lowest cost possible, given those positive outcomes. So that's what we're measuring. 100% means they're achieving those goals. 0% means a city or county is not achieving any of those goals. You can see here, two different sides of sort of that spectrum. This is a list on the homepage. You can see a list of 500 of the largest cities in the country and how they rank, what their scores are. Chicago has the lowest score in the country, 24% among those large cities. But you can also see on the right side here, cities that have higher scores, significantly higher scores than that. So we can go to the next slide. So how does Wilmington fit into this? This is an overview of the different indicators. Now, if you actually go to policescorecard.org, for each of these indicators, we provide the raw data, charts and graphs that dive into each and how these indicators are calculated and what they mean. But in general, what I want you to pay attention here is the indicators that show up in red here are the ones where, compared to similar size cities, Wilmington falls behind. And in some ways, pretty substantially. So you can see a lot of red indicators in the police funding bucket. There are 4 different sort of categories here: police funding, police accountability, police violence, and approach to law enforcement that reflect those higher level goals I talked about. Now, on the police funding side, what is clear here is that Wilmington spends a lot of money per resident on policing compared to other similar sized cities. When you see a 1% there at police budget cost per person, that means that compared to similar sized cities, Wilmington spends more money on policing than 99% of similar sized cities. It gets a 1% as a consequence. Misconduct settlements, we were able to, there was some media reporting on misconduct settlements in Wilmington, and we're able to compare the amount paid out in those settlements to other cities. And we found also that Wilmington pays more than the average amount on misconduct settlements, which points to other potential problems. The cost of police misconduct is higher. Fines and forfeitures, higher than 99% of other cities. So residents are feeling a lot of excessive fines and fees compared to most residents in other cities of similar size. Higher numbers of officers compared to other cities. So that's the police funding bucket. A lot of money is being spent on policing. Residents are feeling the cost burden substantially relative to other cities. So what are we getting in return for that spending? Well, when you look at the police violence bucket here, you can see that first and foremost, there's an incomplete when it comes to police use of force used per arrest. And now the reason for that is Now, my organization has filed public records requests to the city of Wilmington, to Wilmington Police Department, seeking data on police use of force, data that is not made public on their website, and that that request was denied. So, we're able to compile information on deadly force because we're able to leverage local media reports to identify those cases. But when it comes to non-fatal force, which often occurs much more frequently, according to our data, there are about 300 cases of non-fatal police use of force for every fatality. And that whole bucket of data is not available to the public, is not available to us, even though we requested it. So that points to transparency issues. Also, what we're able to find when we look at the deadly force data, that Wilmington has a higher rate per arrest of killings by police and of unarmed people being killed by the police compared to other similar sized cities. Now, I should say here, probably the most telling indicator here would be non-fatal police use of force, because the numbers of killings by police over this time frame, we look at about 10-year time frame, there are about 5 police killings during that time frame. And most of the police use of force, as I said, is non-fatal. That's data that would be really helppful to be used in an analysis here to make comparisons. But again, we don't have access to that data because it was not provided despite our request. When we go to the police accountability side of this chart, we find, compared to other cities, during the time period that we were able to get data from in our analysis, in general, there was a slightly higher complaint sustain rate, so complaints being substantiated, resulting in some sort of accountability, than other similar sized cities, higher than about 33% of other cities of similar size. But I should mention, the time frame we looked at this does not include the most recent report, which is the 2025 report that is on the Wilmington website, and there the complaint substantiation percentage is only 10%, which is much lower than the 24% average that we had available to calculate this score. So while this does look good compared to the other categories, it's on the decline. The trajectory is not in the right direction, and that suggests that maybe there should be a course correction to improve accountability for civilian complaints, because those percentages have gone down in recent years. Finally, approach to law enforcement. This is where we're talking about to what extent is the law enforcement agency focused on low-level arresting people, incarcerating folks for low-level nonviolent issues versus focusing on serious violent crimes. Now, we find here that Wilmington has a particularly high rate of arrests for low-level offenses compared to other cities, higher than about 2/3 of other similar-sized cities. And we also find that it's a relatively low homicide solve rate or clearance rate compared to similar-sized cities. So again, this can help policymakers, community members navigate where are the issues that, compared to other cities, Wilmington falls particularly behind and might need the most adjustment or intervention. But again, overall, the score is about 33%. And that is, relatively low, not only for Delaware, but for the nation, and suggests, pretty substantial interventions might be needed. If we could go to the next slide. So I want to talk about racial disparities. Our analysis looks at the overall, indicator or rates of arrests and police use of force, civilian complaint sustain rates, but we also make sure that we're looking at how different communities are impacted by these issues. So you can see here, the chart on the top left, you can see the demographics of, the population of Wilmington, the police department demographics, who's arrested, who's killed by the police. You can see homicides that go unsolved. It tends to be not only our Black people overrepresented in terms of who's being arrested and killed by the police, but also overrepresented in who's not seeing their homicide cases solved by the police. So whether you are a victim of police violence or a victim of crime, we're seeing a similar disparity there where you're not actually getting the same level of service. Now, when we look at disparities in low-level arrests, I talked about Wilmington having a relatively high rate of arrests for low-level offenses. We can see here that Black communities are experiencing even higher rates than other communities of those arrests, about 3.1 times more likely to be arrested for a low-level nonviolent offense. Latino communities 1.6 times more likely to be arrested than white communities. And then finally, in the bottom right corner here, you can see, of all of the arrests that were made, this is over a decade period, what proportion were for low-level nonviolent offenses? About 41%. This doesn't include any violent crimes. It doesn't include any crimes against people. It doesn't include any property crimes except for vandalism, which is often graffiti, very low level. And again, you can see about 41%, nearly half of the arrests are for those things, those low-level nonviolent issues that don't include those major issues. Drug possession, 8%, violent crime, 12%. So again, almost as many arrests for drug possession alone as for all violent crimes combined. We can go to the next slide. So this is an example. I talked about that public records request. Here is the screenshot. As Carlton, the prior presenter, talked about, we are happy to work with cities, with community organizations, with researchers to obtain data from cities and from police departments and incorporate that in our analysis, to do a deep dive analysis. For example, if you go to our website, there is a extensive report on policing in San Diego, both San Diego Police Department and San Diego Sheriff's Department. And that was done in collaboration with the ACLU of San Diego and Imperial Counties and a coalition of other organizations working in concert with the city to get information that otherwise might not be available through public records requests, information on stops and searches and arrests and use of force, both fatal and non-fatal, on civilian complaints and the outcomes of those complaints, and a range of other indicators to do a really deep dive analysis of policing and develop recommendations, policy and practice recommendations to address the issues that are found in the analysis. But one of the issues is with Wilmington, and I should say it's not just Wilmington, but Delaware in general is very difficult because you have to be an in-state resident in order. The law says that agencies are allowed to, they're not required to, but they're allowed to deny your request if you're not an in-state resident. However, even when we were able to work with an in-state resident to file a request for data from Wilmington Police Department, we were still denied. So by law, we should be getting access to that data. We're not getting access to that data. And as a consequence, we're not able to make available and incorporate into our analysis the depth of data we are able to do for other cities. So one key recommendation here is basic transparency. That information, first of all, it should be on the website of the police department or the city's website. There are many cities that publish detailed police use of force data on their websites and keep that updated in real time. There are many cities that publish detailed civilian complaints data. There are entire states that do. The state of New Jersey publishes both of those types of data across every police agency in the entire state with detailed information on each case, who was impacted by that case, which officers were involved, what the demographics were, and what the outcomes were. And so, this is something that is becoming an industry standard, and it's something where Wilmington is still a little bit behind the curve and would benefit from being more transparent. If we could go to the next slide. So what are we able to do with all of this data? What's the point? Well, we're seeing some really promising new policies and investments that have been made really since 2020 and the nationwide reaction to the murder of George Floyd. We saw a number of different policies and practices adopted across the country with regard to police reform and accountability. But one of the ones that has been one of the most forward-thinking and potentially powerful has been the Crises Act, which was a state law adopted in California. This is text from part of the Crises Act. Now, the Crises Act sets up a dedicated statewide grant program investing in alternative responses responses that don't involve the police, responding to mental health crises, domestic disturbances, traffic stops, a range of other potential situations that currently the police are being called in and are responding to, in some cases, resulting in people being harmed or killed by the police. And not only does the state create this program where they're investing in those programs, now they've already given, I think, grants to 6 different counties to develop these programs and scale them up. But we worked with the state's Department of Social Services in California specifically to use the data from the police scorecard to inform where to make those investments. So this language in the law really enabled that, because it says that those grants that are supposed to go to alternatives need to prioritize areas that have the highest rates of police use of force, the largest volume of civilian complaints, high rates of incarceration, and racial profiling. So really where the issue of police violence or lack of accountability is most severe, the law states that those are the places that need to get those investments in alternatives, and they need alternatives. Those communities need alternatives the most. And so we worked with the state's Department of Social Services to identify those places across the state and to make those investments. And we can do that not only at the state level, but also at the city level to review the data if we can get access to it, to look at what neighborhoods, what zip codes, what blocks have the highest need, where the issues are most severe. Are there concentrations of police use of force or civilian complaints in particular neighborhoods? Are there particular officers? Well, often what we find is it is a certain group of officers, a smaller proportion of the department that makes up an outsized proportion of police use of force cases and misconduct complaints. So we can identify all of that when we have access to the data, and be happy to work with the city to actually get access to that data, and do another request. Hopefully it will be met this time so that we can do that kind of analysis and move forward. If we could do the next slide. So I'll close here with 3 websites that I've mentioned. This is all public data. We believe that this information should be available to policymakers, to researchers, to the public, to be informed about how best to address policing in their own communities. PoliceScorecard.org has the most expansive set of indicators and a 30,000-foot overview of policing in each city and county. Police Violence Report focuses on cases where people are killed by the police across the country, the most sort of severe and challenging cases, and does an analysis of that. And then PoliceData.org is our newest project with non-fatal police use of force data from public records requests across the country. I'll close there. I'm happy to, again, work with the city, work with community organizations, and anyone really who is interested in getting data, using data to push forward changes to improve communities.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Samuel.
Thank you.
In about 20 minutes, we're going to have public comment. I just want to remind everyone to sign up on the public comment sheet up here. I also want to announce that Council Member Letitia Bracey has joined us online. And I just want to let you guys know, the first presentation, I want you to know that police reform is possible, that there is a proposal to the administration for it to be done, and it hasn't been done. And I want you guys, second, to know is that no one can ever argue with you if you have data. Okay? Like I am, people always tell me you're very passionate, emotional, but I ain't never tell no lie, because I always have data and I always have research. And I want y'all as the community to have that, as y'all are out here demanding justice, be able to say, these are the numbers. Yes. This is the data. This is why it needs to happen, along with keep the emotion and passion. I love emotion and passion, so keep that, but to have the data with you, because when you get in a room with these government officials and these people, they won't be able to argue with you. So our last presentation is a local organization. They're called No Cap, Neighbors Organized for Credibility and Accountability in Policing. That was a lot of.
Say it 10 times, you can get it.
No Cap.
You gotta say it 10 times.
No Cap. So this will be our last presentation for tonight, and then you'll dive into the Delaware data.
Or do I have to turn it on? It's on. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kobe. Yeah, so I'm about to get local, if everybody's cool with that. You seem pretty good with it. My name is Rob Vanella. I'm the facilitator for Neighbors Organized for Credibility and Accountability Policing. We are an independent advocacy group and community group that focus on one issue: police reform in Delaware. We've been around for about 2.5 years. but this issue has been around much, much longer than that, and that's where we're going to jump into this. So can I get the first slide, please? Why are we here? Why are we here? Jeremy McDole, whose name is on the police reform framework that this council has reviewed for many years. He was murdered by Wilmington police in 2015. Lyman Moses, whose sister, Lakeisha Nix, I spoke to this morning. And just as an aside, we're going to be providing a package of information to council after this with a lot of supporting documentation and how we could partner moving forward. One of those things will be a statement from Lakeisha that we can't read into the record tonight because it's just too long, but we'll be publishing it and sharing it with everybody. And finally, Kadir Skinner, who was killed earlier this month.
Last but not least.
Hopefully last. So, can I have the next slide, please? If you're a loved one of one of these men, if one of these men is your son, or your husband, or your cousin, or your brother, what is your role in this process? How do you find out what happened to your loved one? Can you get the police report? Can you work in partnership with the police to talk to witnesses? What is your legal role? What legal rights do you have? Do you have the legal right to review body cam footage? Can I get the next slide, please? Nothing. You have no legal rights. You plan a funeral, and that's it. Now, in this case, with Kadir, the Attorney General's office decided, through their choice, to share some of the information, some of the body cam footage, but the AG's choice and what you should be legally able to obtain in situations like this are two different things. How did we get here? Can the next slide, please? So in 2020, a lot of you were with me out in the street protesting the George Floyd murder. From that, the state, with the help of, before he was a council member Owens, was able to pass laws that mandated body cams for every police department in Delaware.
But they don't turn them on.
5 years ago. Great question. Over 2 years since then, 2021 to 2023, there was a large state initiative at the state legislative level to review wholesale changes to what we call the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights. It's what some of our colleagues that are on this call ran into when they tried to get some of the information to fill out their scorecard. You can't get it. There's a lot of people in this room that were very, very engaged for 2 years in that task force process. That task force process, the rug was pulled out from under those groups, and a watered-down package of HB 205 and 206 were passed. We didn't get Leo Bohr reform. We got fake reform. And I can say this because over the past 2.5 to 3 years, we've engaged with those changes, with the changes that 205 and 206 have mandated. Police accountability boards, for one. So tonight we have a series of demands and a way to get from point A to point B. But before we do that, we need to understand the importance of why we're making these demands. And I can't do that. My colleague, Reverend Patrick Burke from Sam Church here in Wilmington, and also a Wilmingtonian like me, is going to speak to you a little bit to prepare your mind to start hearing about the importance of what we have to do. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Rob, and thank you for the opportunity for this discussion regarding systemic reforms within the WPD and addressing how police are held accountable by the community that they serve. As a faith leader, I'd like to ground our discussion tonight in the moral urgency of this moment as our community faces the death of yet another young man after an encounter with the police. That urgency was reinforced just minutes ago by the scorecard presentation, which was both heartbreaking to think about systemically what is going on, but even more so thinking about the individuals and families impacted by all those individual events. Our community is filled with grief and anger. Together, we must recognize the moral urgency of this moment, and I pray that we will hold fast to our shared commitment to justice and mercy for all members of our community. We are all divinely created in God's image, and God yearns for our community to fully reflect that. As we enter into this conversation, I ask that we here tonight and those who will do this work moving forward center our community in this work, especially the most vulnerable of our community, and center our hearts and minds in the sacred trust that we have been anointed to lead with and to care for. There are critical policy discussions in front of us, but we cannot lose sight of our shared humanity in this moment or the communal yearning for justice for all, justice for Kadir. There's an urgency to repair and restore the fabric of trust and mutuality between members of our community and those that govern and enforce our laws. Every single member of our community is made in the image of the divine, and our work must be rooted in mutual accountability to ensure that our shared humanity, our shared commitment to each and every member of our community so we can all thrive. Friends, the fabric between us has been torn. We have a shared moral imperative to repair it right now. And so as we enter into this critical policy discussion, I want to ground us in the words of the prophet Isaiah, those which Jesus himself used to ground his own ministry 2,000 years ago. May they be the basis of our work tonight and in the days and weeks to come so that our community can heal and be rooted together in God's goodness, mercy, and righteousness. Friends, the Spirit of the Lord God is upon us because the Lord God has anointed us. He has sent us to bring good news to the oppressed, to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, release to the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn, to provide for those who mourn in Zion and in Wilmington, to give them a garland instead of ashes, and the oil of gladness and liberation instead of mourning, the mantle of praise and rejoicing instead of a faint spirit. May we, the anointed leaders in this community, be agents of liberation and justice, rooted in the urgency and moral imperative of this moment. Amen.
And with that in mind, I want to introduce Dr. Tanya Whittle. Tanya has a PhD in sociology with a focus on criminology. Tanya was also a 2-year member of the Newcastle County Police Accountability Board.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us, and thank you to all of the neighbors that are out here today and who joined us yesterday in the march in recognizing the most recent loss of Mr. Skinner. So as was mentioned, I'm going to be speaking with you guys about some tangible steps that can be taken. The presentations that preceded us, I think, touched on some of the things that the general population recognizes needs to be done. We need to have continued conversations. We need to have better accountability. But in order to have accountability, we have to have transparency. And we have to have laws that allow for that to take place. So I wasn't surprised when the one gentleman said that he didn't get information. And then when he said he didn't get it because he was not a resident, I was like, okay, well, that's an additional reason, because even as a resident, I'm a Wilmington resident, I can't get this information, just like you all can't get this information. And when we were out walking the city just yesterday, people that were marching were yelling, like, what is the shooter's name? Why won't you tell us the name? And part of it is because of how our laws are written. And so recognizing that we are in a legislative body here, the first branch of our government, I think it's important that we talk about what the legislative branch versus the executive branch can do, and talk about how all of us have a responsibility in changing our laws so that we actually can have transparency and therefore get to accountability of law enforcement. So on one side here, and real quick, just to let you know, these are some of the items that are included in the Jerry McDole police reform package. Some of them can be done within Wilmington's hands. So first off, if we had an executive branch who wanted to let this information out or wanted to make policy changes, they can do so, but oftentimes aren't practicing that power. Oftentimes they'll refer to, well, the law says we can't, but they ignore the provision that says except in these circumstances. And so thinking about what the city can do, I think that calling on the release of those videos is great, but we need to have more systematic access to information, not just in the worst case situations. So the idea of having an external audit, we as NOCAP support that. It not only needs to be an external audit, not just the police looking at police behavior or another police agency looking at police behavior. We need to have truly an external evaluation, and we should have conversation before that gets started on what that evaluation will entail. Are we just going to look at performance measures, how many conversations a police officer had, how many pieces of pizza they had when they met with the community members? Are we actually going to talk about the outcomes and the effects on our communities? Are we safe? Do we feel safe? Do we feel like our government is representing us, and are our police legitimate in the community's eyes? You can't have legitimacy unless people feel you are legitimate, and part of the way of getting there is transparency. So external independent audits, we need to have an ordinance that requires regular specific detailing of these outcomes I mentioned, not just service provision, but what is the effect of the money that we are spending for these actions? What is the effect on our community well-being? And then there is also a suggestion in the proposed package to expand the concept of alternative responses, such as the partnership in care. I think that's a great reform. It's a step, but we have to be very mindful that unless we change the culture and the way that we're thinking about government intervention, police intervention, and even healthcare intervention in these scenarios, we're just going to get more of the same. And so it can't just be having mental health professionals show up with police and once someone is subdued, then talk to them. We need to actually have it where trained professionals that know how to deal with crisis are the ones making the call on how to approach an individual, because subduing and incapacitating someone is not the only way to reach safety. It might be safe for other people, but that individual in crisis is part of our community and needs to be respected with their humanity. So then on the other side here, there's some things that need to be done, and they're not directly in the power of the council. And so on one hand, you could say, well, why are you talking about it? But in part, I think it's important for all of us to know what the limitations of our power is. And because as our representatives at the city level, you all do have more power than we do to make pressure at the state level. So there are some changes that need to happen at the state level. We need to make it where these police accountability boards actually have teeth. They need subpoena power. As was mentioned, I was on Newcastle County's Police Accountability Board when it was first implemented. Even though I'm a Wilmington resident, I was eligible for that one, and Wilmington's board hadn't been established yet. Well, through that process, I learned when you have an accountability board that has no subpoena power, can't make the police do anything, and it's even being staffed by the executive government. So if they don't want you to meet, you don't meet. If your meeting minutes go missing off the internet because they decided they didn't need to be there anymore, how does the board push back against that? So we were worse than curtains in some ways. So there needs to be additional reforms done to support police accountability boards. And in order for them to truly do a good job, have subpoena power, and be able to hold anyone accountable, to be able to actually see and know what's happening, we need to address LEABOR. So at the state level, we need to make it where police don't have more rights than you and I do.
That's right. That's right.
It needs to be where we can actually access information so that we can say, hey, is this a problem of just one or two people or across the board? Right now, we do not have the right to do that. That has been legislatively given away from the state level legislative branch to the executive branch. And so the city, I think in some ways we can say, okay, yeah, this is the basement. We are going to require more in our reporting, but they're going to hit a ceiling. So we have to then fix that at the state level as well. And then finally, as mentioned, there is the potential of getting the Attorney General involved, but overall, we really need to have not just a conversation, but a conversation with tangible outcomes. Dr. Nolan is one of the members that we work with. He's a part of NOCAP, even though he doesn't live in Delaware, but he was a Wilmington police officer back in the day before he went on to get his PhD and focus on policing issues. And he talks about, it's not just enough to change strategy about how you're going to move up and down the field. You need to change the game. And right now, the game is subduing us, controlling us, and making sure, ideally, everyone goes home safely at the end of the night. But at what cost? And who's going home?
That's right.
I have family that's in law enforcement. I don't see it as an us versus them thing, but anytime that we have these conversations, it's often turned into an us versus them thing. We all deserve to be respected, and we have to bring back that power to the people. So City Council, please pass laws that give you your power back, reclaim it, and allow us to support you.
So can I get the next slide, please? So this is just to wrap up. We are asking you to embrace your moral imperative and act with urgency. People are dying. This problem is a systemic problem, as Tanya mentioned. The best time to have fixed it was 20 years ago, but the second best time is today.
Facts.
Down. 400. Yeah, down.
400 years ago. Know that.
And don't negotiate away democratic oversight. You guys have the power to determine what you want and how we're going to get it. We don't need the police to do it in secret. We don't need the AG to do it in secret. And frankly, we should be very skeptical of how nonprofits do it. Because you think you can't FOIA the police, try FOIAing a nonprofit.
Yeah.
So we are going to commit to working with this council in whatever way we can. Can I get the next slide, please? One of the things we're actually working on is pretty exciting. One of our colleagues, Mary Caroselli, is here, and she's doing a lot of research about how to actually pass some of the ordinances that we talked about that have that background in the Jeremy McDole reform package. Understanding your political realities. You're a city council. You need to pass ordinances. There's state issues that Tanya has reviewed. There's also a very authoritarian executive, we'll say, here. So in understanding that, we're trying to develop ways that we can continually support that kind of work you're going to do. But we'll also support it in whatever way we can. Town halls, rallies for support. We are building the organizational capacity to do that. And we want to make sure that we do that. So we will be following up with you after this with information about things we can do and things for the record. And I'll just leave it there. I thank you for the opportunity. I want to thank the committee chair, Shanae, thank you, Council Member Willauer, Council President Congo, Kobe. And so I think somebody's online too. I'm sorry if I forgot.
Is online.
Yeah, and thank you very much. Yeah, but I also want to thank the community that came out. We're going to need your help. You've been there so far, and we're going to need your help to continue.
Ain't going nowhere.
I got you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. All right. We are going to open it up for public comment. So you will have 3 minutes for your public comment. You can ask questions, any concerns. It could be anything around policing, police reform. I am going to do a person in person and go online. Committee members, did y'all have any comments or anything before we head into public comment? Are y'all good?
Yeah, I'm fine. I do have some comments, but I'd rather let the public speak first.
Okay, we'll let the public speak first. Okay, great. All right, I have Mr. Baba Hamin. Hamin? He might have left, all righty. Mary Caracello.
No comment. She was just signing in.
Is that separate? Oh, okay, got it. Julia Hardman.
Right here. Where do I stand?
Yes, I'm so sorry. You'll come up to the podium right here.
All right. Sorry, I have some prepared notes. All right. So it has come to this, and our police let it happen. A young man, Kadir Skinner, 19, was shot in the back by a cop. And I want the police right now to beg all of us citizens for forgiveness. I need a giant mea culpa coming out of the police right now. Why is it yesterday a young officer said to us when we were protesting, asking why his body camera wasn't on, which we pay for, his response was, well, they, the cops, pay for them. No. And what training, what brainwashing did that cop have to think that they could just make such a flippant statement like that? It is our money that goes towards these police. We are the reason that you can, excuse my language, wipe your bums. We, as citizens of this city, we paid for Kadir to be shot. We paid for his father to be maced. The money that I make with my art, that I go back into taxes, paid for a young man's life to be taken away. So I want the cops to beg us to change. I love how the officers outside right now are watching this on a live feed, but also were told by their captain not to come in here and be with us. That is not begging for forgiveness. I know, as a citizen, it would make our lives easier and the officers' lives easier if we see each other as human. But in my decades of living in this city, I have never been given an excuse to see an officer as a human being. I remember my time doing voter registration in Germantown and West Philly. There were cops on foot. They were out, they were patrolling, they knew the neighborhood. They lived in the actual city. You don't shoot somebody, a teenager, let alone anyone, in the back.
30-second warning.
Oh, sorry?
No, you said 30-second warning.
Oh, okay. So I know we don't want this now, but I want medic training every 2 years. Sorry, twice a year for police officers. I want half of their patrol shift to be out of their cruisers, to be walking around amongst us. Everything else was covered, but seriously, get out of your cars and meet us. You won't kill somebody you see as a human.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry.
No, you are fine. For your comment, the next person online is Elaine Swift. Elaine Swift.
Hello, can you hear me?
We do hear you.
Okay. Well, first of all, I do want to thank Councilwoman Darby for convening this very important meeting. I very much appreciate the opportunity to have heard from such excellent witnesses and experts in this area. I just want to say just how deeply upset I am by Kadir Skinner's death, and it's just really affected me and my family, my daughters who are around Kadir's age. We all live in the city of Wilmington. I do also want to just underscore the importance of the city council taking leadership in this area. I am by training a political scientist. The executive power always borders on authoritarianism. We see it, of course, most dramatically at the federal level. We certainly see it at the state level. And really, it is shocking to me the extent to which we see it at the city level. So I'm asking my city council members, Kobe Owens, who is just terrific, the at-large members, all of the members of all of the districts to come together and take leadership on this issue. Thank you.
Yes, no, thank you for your comments tonight. In person, we have Jean Messick. And then right after Jean Messick online, I think Marshall Ali is in person. Okay, you aren't, so you'll just go after.
I've got a letter from some colleagues to read out. My name is Jean Messick. I live in District 4. Food Not Bombs Wilmington, Stop the Sweeps Wilmington, No Borders Delaware, Delaware Queers for Palestine, Delaware Actions for Palestine, Delaware Democratic Socialists of America, House of Catharsis of Mask Block Delaware, and the undersigned would like to express our deepest condolences to the families of Kadir Skinner, who was murdered by a Wilmington police officer on June 24th. Our solidarity is with both Kadir and his families, as well as all others who have lost their lives, loved ones, and livelihoods to police violence in Wilmington, Newcastle County, Delaware State, and beyond. This senseless killing is but the latest haunting example of the fundamental danger presented by the local blue-clad militaries wielded by our governments against us. As a foundational principle, we fundamentally believe in the abolition of the carceral state, notably through defunding the police, and we, the undersigned, are in agreement. Our government's resources are better suited to providing adequate social services to our most vulnerable and underserved communities. Real and perceived crime is a result of need and disparity, and until the city of Wilmington stops spending over 30% of its entire budget on a police force that kills its citizens without consequences, it is directly complicit in the greatest cause of violence that our community faces. The existing Partners in Care initiative encourages social workers to take a back seat and allow police officers to do the talking, threatening violence and incarceration against noncompliance instead of leading with the care and services and solutions that we need to de-escalate conflict in our community. Modern policing in the U.S. has its roots in slave patrols and has always existed to violently enforce the capitalist, white supremacist, patriarchal, settler colonial occupation of this land. As we continue to witness our immigrant neighbors being torn from their homes and tortured or murdered by ICE, like they were this morning, we recognize that the daily violence committed by the Wilmington Police Department and other forces of the state comes from the same source. We acknowledge the many justified and actionable demands made by NOCAP, Tide Shift Justice Project, the Skinner family, and the greater Wilmington community. We, the undersigned, make the additional demands of the Carney administration and Wilmington Police Chief Wilfredo Campos. Immediately implement the external audit of the Wilmington Police Department as passed by City Council. Immediately and permanently dismiss without pay all officers involved in the shootings of Kadir Skinner, Jeremy McDole, Yaheem Harris, and the undercover agents involved in the shooting of Calvin Warren. Immediately release all body camera footage related to the murder of Kadir Skinner to the rest of his two families and to the public.
12 seconds.
We, the undersigned, make these demands of Wilmington Council. Pass a budget amendment defunding Wilmington Police Department and reallocating funds to programs and services that will keep people housed, fed, and cared for. Refuse any further budget increases to them. And replace the Partners in Care initiative with a social outreach and crisis intervention service that focuses on social workers directly providing care and services to community members. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your comments. After Marshall Lee, we're going to have Lip Bentley in person, and then online, Christina Kelly.
Good evening. My name is Marshall Lee McCall. I am a family medicine physician, a Wilmington resident, the mother of a young black son, and the daughter of a police officer. These experiences have taught me that public safety and public trust are not competing values. They depend on one another. I want to express my disappointment in what has felt like a lack of urgency from many of our elected officials in response to the death of Kadir Skinner. When a young person loses their life during an encounter with law enforcement, our community deserves timely communication, visible leadership, transparency, and a commitment to finding the truth. As a physician, one of my greatest concerns is the timeline of medical care. Every minute matters when someone has suffered an injury. Based on the publicly available bystander video, there appears to be delays in medical care, and the video appears to show Mr. Skinner being handcuffed and restrained after he was shot. Those images have raised serious questions that deserve a complete, independent, and transparent review. The public deserves to understand the timeline of events, when emergency medical services were requested and when interventions began, what care was provided on the scene during transport, and when established responses and if established protocols were followed. A lack of transparency affects more than one family. It erodes trust between communities and law enforcement. When trust is broken, people are less likely to report crimes, cooperate with investigations, or partner with police to improve the care of our communities. As you consider an external assessment, I encourage the council to ensure that both the evaluator and selection process are truly independent and transparent. I respectfully recommend a competitive request for proposals so qualified organizations can be considered openly. The assessment should go beyond listening sessions. It should evaluate policies, training, emergency medical response, accountability systems, transparency, and implementation of prior reform recommendations. Most importantly, this should not be a one-time exercise. Wilmington should establish an ongoing process for incorporating these recommendations. Finally, transparency requires data. We cannot improve what we do not measure. I can commend Senator Marie Pinckney and the General Assembly for passing the death in custody legislation, and I urge Governor Matt Meyer to sign it into law. But we must go further. Delaware needs comprehensive, publicly available data. As the daughter of a police officer, a physician, and the mother of a young black son, I believe we can support good policing while also demanding accountability. Those principles are not in conflict. And thank you for your time and efforts.
Yes, thank you. Lip Bentley. And then right after that, Christina Kelly, online.
Good evening. Thank you. I want to offer my condolences and sympathies to Kadir Skinner's family and to all the victims of police violence and call for justice for them. I think that the bare minimum that the body cam footage needs to be released in full, no edits by the police, and that we need an independent outside audit of the police as soon as possible. And I just want to thank you, Councilmember Darby. You have been a tireless fighter for justice on all things, so thank you very much. And I know Councilmember Owens has also been a tireless fighter. I come from the 6th District. I've lived there most of my life. I live around a bunch of cops, and over there, how things are is not how it is in other parts of the city. Due to it is, we do have different races of people living there, but for the most part, it's people white looking just like me. And what I've observed through a lot of the city, and I'm sure a lot of other folks can attest to that, who are black and brown, is that the police treat people like an occupying force, like a military force, and that needs to stop. While I personally believe in the abolition of law enforcement, and I mean no disrespect to the tireless work that people have done for the reforms, and I think they are a necessary starting point, something obviously needs to be done, and money needs to be reallocated to alternatives to policing that actually help people, that also address the root causes of so-called crime. Because for the most part, where police are enforcing crime is in black and brown communities, and also on the lower classes, the lower economic classes. I guess that's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your comments. Christina Kelly online, and then we're going to go to Tony Dunn in person.
Hi, good evening. My name is Christina Kelly. I'm going to do my best here. I don't have much of a voice after yesterday. Thank you to the 3 council members that showed up and were with Kadir's family yesterday. We appreciate you. But I'm here because meaningful police reform in Delaware is not a new conversation. It's a conversation that has been delayed for far too long. Every time another life is lost during an encounter with law enforcement, we hear the same promises. We hear calls for patience. We hear that we should wait for investigations to conclude. We hear that the system is working exactly as it should. The communities across Delaware have been waiting for years, and too often, the only thing that changes is the name of the family searching for answers. Public trust cannot exist without transparency. Accountability cannot exist without independent oversight. And justice cannot exist if the public is expected to simply accept official narratives while critical evidence remains hidden. Real reform means more than issuing statements after tragedy. It means establishing policies that prevent tragedy in the first place. It means requiring timely public release of body cam footage when there's a critical incident. It means strengthening independent investigations into police use of force. It means ensuring civilian oversight boards have real authority instead of existing as symbolic gestures. And it means collecting and publicly reporting meaningful data so that communities can measure whether policing is actually becoming safer, fairer, and more accountable. These reforms should not be controversial. They should be the minimum standard in a democracy. Police officers carry extraordinary authority. With that authority comes an extraordinary responsibility to the public. Accountability is not anti-police. Transparency is not anti-police. In fact, strong accountability protects good officers just as much as it protects the communities they serve by ensuring that public confidence is built on facts instead of speculation. The people of Delaware are not asking for perfection. We're asking for a system that earns trust instead of demanding it. We're asking for a government that responds to warning signs before another family is grieving instead of afterward. The question before us is not whether reform is necessary. The question is how many more communities have to experience heartbreak before meaningful action is finally taken. And to close, I know council members are sick and tired of hearing my name and my voice, but I can promise you, if you would just stop letting us bury our community members, you wouldn't have to hear me so much. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Tony Dunn in person, and then online next will be Lynn Kilhorn.
Good evening. My name is Tony Dunn. I'm just going to speak straight from the heart. I'm a Wilmingtonian. I've been here all my life. My mother was an activist. People around me was an activist. One thing I do know for a fact, I stand behind the Dollar family, the Skinner family. I stand behind Brother Brooks. I stand behind all the people that are getting out here trying to wake up poor people. But I got to speak about poor black people because this is who is being attacked by police all over Delaware, all over the world. How much more do you expect us as a people to take? Now you're killing our children, you're beating up our women, and y'all want us to sit back and hear all these organizations and all these pastors talk about what we need to do. We already know what we need to do. We got to do it. This room should be packed. You know what's going on? Y'all holding back our youth. Our youth is waiting for us as adult men to stand up to these principalities and this wickedness that's going on in our community, killing us. Not only is it killing us, it's killing our communities. And we can't fight because economically we are broke people. And until we unionize with each other and fight together, they call me a troublemaker. I've heard that from city council. I'm going to be a troublemaker, but I'm good trouble. And we're going to stop playing these games when city council can't even get together and vote for a bill that helps us with rent and all the other things we've been here waiting to get some help on. I appreciate some of city council members that stick together, like Kobe, like Trippy, like Shanae, Weilau. It's a lot of them that stick together, but the main ones in our community that ain't here right now, they're on that screen, but they won't come in here and face us. We need to start boycotting them. We need to boycott these stores that don't help our community. We need to boycott these darn organizations that ain't helping our people, taking that money, using it for other things instead of using it for us as poor people. That's what the government gives it to you for. And we need it, and we want it. And we got to stop playing these games with them. We're going to boycott y'all. We're going to go back to the old school. Booker, you know what I'm talking about. Let's make it happen.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Dunn. Our next online person, Ms. Lynn, asked to be to go to the next person. So, Ms. Lanita Brooks, online.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I wanted to be there in person, but of course I'm at work. I just wanted to comment on the family Kadir Skinner. Again, I send my condolences. The video that was posted is very upsetting. I was like, of course I watched it after the rally, and I'm pretty sure if most people had watched it before the rally, it would not have been a peaceful march. And I just want to say that Leah Board needs to be passed. The McDole reform needs to be passed. And I think all officers in Delaware need to be evaluated every 6 months, every year. But something is mentally wrong with police officers that think they can go around just killing people, just macing the community because the community is upset about a shooting of a 19-year-old baby. It's ridiculous, and it was so heartbreaking to see a dad maced because he's trying to find out information about his son being shot. And then to see the son in handcuffs after being shot, and the look in his eyes, he knew. It just brought chills to my body. Like, I just seen my son all over. Thank you for my comment.
Thank you for your comments. In person next is Maya Hackett, and then online we have Joshua Kalk. Happy birthday.
It's my birthday every day.
Oh, every day is your, I like that. Okay. You are the birthday. All right.
Hi, everyone.
Yes, hello. You have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. My name is Maya Elizabeth Hackett. I am a Native American princess, and my family has been on the Eastern Shore, the East Coast, specifically Delaware, since the 1400s. And I see a solution, and it has nothing to do with anything that we talked about today. In my opinion, the solution is segregation. In regards to the police force, we need to police our own. There is no way possible to get a white man to sympathize with a young black YN. There is none. They don't give a fuck. They will never give a fuck. I want my people policing my people, period. No more, no less. That's it. That is the solution. I will not lick the ass of the same people who murdered my friend. Period. I am not a puppet. Period. And every police officer in the state of Delaware knows my face because I have been locked up 28 times since 2020. And I whoops ass. So know that. I'm here with a non-lethal weapon. I shall walk out safe, and I shall walk in safe everywhere I go. And every Black American, African American, coloreds only, will stand with their heads held high with no fear. Amen.
That's right.
We shall not get shot for running from anything.
That's right.
What are we running from?
That's right.
Why are you here on my land? I ask of you that.
That's right.
What do you want from our people?
That's right.
They want to kill us. The police department was set in place to kill, capture, and murder us. Yes. Why are we mad at them for doing their job? Yes or no? Goodbye.
Alrighty, so online we have Joshua Calk, and then in person we have Lavetta Bryce.
Yes, are you able to hear me okay?
We do hear you, Joshua.
My apologies. I'm standing outside, so my apologies if you do hear anything else, but I have my response written. I just want to start by thanking everyone who showed up and participated in yesterday's rally in March. It made me proud to see so many different people come together during a difficult time, all pushing for a better future for Wilmington and for real transparency across Delaware. I also want to give a quick special thanks to Mr. Booker for allowing me to be chairman of such a wonderful organization that he created. And he is one of the people who a lot of people stand on his shoulders in the community. So thank you, Mr. Booker. Transparency has been a major topic lately, and for good reason. A lot of people in this city feel like their backs are against the wall when it comes to openness and accountability from police, local government, and those in power. But transparency isn't something that applies to just one group. It doesn't start and stop. It should be constant, like a river that keeps flowing. We all have a role in it, but especially those who are elected to serve and those who wear a badge. When violence or crime happens, information is quickly pushed to the media and shared with the public. That same urgency should exist when it comes to accountability. When situations involve police officers or public officials, the public deserves the same honesty, the same speed, and the same level of attention. Right now, our community has resources, but it's clear that more is needed, and it's needed now. So I'm asking City Council and all elected officials to be more proactive, be champions for Wilmington, not just in words, but in action. Because this responsibility doesn't fall on the people alone. Real progress takes all of us working together. It's not one or the other. It has to be both. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Joshua. In person, Lavetta Bryce. Lavetta Bryce. If no Lavetta Bryce, we're going to go to Dora Williams. Any more online? Good.
Good evening, everyone, and it's nice to see everybody. It really is. Thank you, Council, for all that you have done, those that are here. And I just need to share one thing. Some time ago, some years ago, I was at a church, and a priest was upset about a young man that was killed on a hilltop. He was out playing basketball, and I don't know, some things got out of hand and somebody came back and shot him. But the one thing that he said in church that really stuck with me, and he said, he did his homily, his sermon and everything. And at the end he said, I don't want anybody in here to tell me that what happened is God's will. So with that, I'm hoping that I know that council starts their meetings with a prayer. And my prayer is that we absolutely know that that was not God's will, and our sympathies and condolences go to the family. And I would depend on the council to go forth in this matter, because Kadir Spenter was what happened to him, we're all responsible. And for where the police are, where we are today with them, we're all responsible for all the decisions that we have made. And I do believe that this council, those who are present, know where to go and how to go forward. And we really expect you to do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. We have 3 more in-person comments. I think we're done with online. Heather Hamill. No, Heather. All right. We are going to go to, I don't know what y'all wrote. Is it Anastasia? Anastasia. All right. And then after that is Caitlin Del Colo. Yes.
So I really appreciate this meeting tonight because I think a lot of people brought really good points here. One thing I didn't hear mentioned is, you know, body cameras and the footage that they produce are very crucial to kind of providing transparency. However, as far as training goes, I haven't heard anything about unconscious bias training. Now, this was something I actually suggested after my personal experience in family court. I said that pretty much anyone having to do with the public should at least go some unconscious bias training. It's only an hour-long module. You answer questions. It's a little bit interactive. And then I followed up on it about a year after that. So this would have been 2021, 2022. And apparently our government did vote on it, and they voted no. And the reason they voted no is it's too much administrative work. I already have a lot of stuff to do. I already know this. Why should I do it? It's some woke hippie bullshit. And those were the main 3 reasons. Now, meanwhile, and I know this is tangentially related, but I've had a psychologist that is affiliated with the courts of Delaware straight up tell me, all fill in the blank of your culture are violent alcoholics. How do I know you're not one of them? And then anything I said was negative. I was punished for it. I lost my kid. Luckily, he wasn't shot, and I can still see him. But if you can kind of understand that this is like a whole cultural framework, you know, we're like in a web of racism that permeates our state. And until our politicians not only like live on the salaries that we live on, but also take the trainings that are required out of, you know, people that work in hospitals, for example. I even suggested them the training. It was a really good training. University of Pennsylvania, there was like a woman presenter.
30-second warning.
And she asked really good questions. And they voted no. They didn't need it. They knew better than I did. So maybe they'll reconsider. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right. We have our last public comment, and then you get to hear from your council members.
Good evening. My name is Caitlin Del Colo. I do not live in the city. I'm just outside the city limits, but I work in the city and my son goes to kindergarten in the city. And I just want to make 3 points. 1, I am deeply disturbed to learn that WPD will not release data about use of force. The lack of transparency is chilling, and it makes me wonder, what else are they hiding? Number 2, we all know there are racial disparities in policing. It is obvious. So I am here to say that status quo is unacceptable, and doing nothing is also unacceptable. Which brings me to number 3. I personally don't have the answers. I'm not a criminal justice expert, but a lot of really great ideas were presented today. So I am urging council to consider them very carefully, but especially the idea of bringing in an external auditor or somebody who can do an assessment. I'm sure that will come with a price tag, but whatever the cost, if it could save even one life from being taken by the police, it is more than worth it. Thank you.
I want to say thank you to the community for participating in their public comment. Council members, do you have any comments? Okay, all right.
I'm so sorry.
You are fine. I understand. Any council? You got any comments? Councilmember Owens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tonight we heard a lot of commentary about external audit, the scorecard, but there's some other things that need to be done here in Wilmington to make sure that we're getting true transparency. Not all of it can be done on the city level. Some of it has to be done on the state level, and I've been pushing for this for years before I got on council. But whenever there's a police officer involved shooting, there needs to be an automatic independent investigation triggered. Those records need to be turned over to those investigators so that it's not done in-house. But when it comes to body cameras, when I wrote the sits to fits policy in 2020, we asked for body-worn cameras for every officer in the state of Delaware. That included the city of Wilmington. What we also asked for at that time, in which the Delaware General Assembly did not put in to their policy that they had said that they was going to do in 2023, is a timely manner to release the body-worn camera footage. That can be done almost instantly. But I think back then we asked for like 15 days. Within 15 days, releasing it to the public, noting that we wanted to give time for family and attorneys to be able to see it first before it is fully released, because it can create a lot of trauma to watch your loved one. That was not given to us. We also asked, when it comes to Leah Board, we called for Leah Board to be repealed because it creates a separate, higher substandard of rights for individuals that we as the public are not afforded. And what's in that is, if I'm an officer, according to Leah Board, I have to have the case presented to me. I get days to prepare for it. I get to know the questions that I'm going to be asked. I get to see the body-worn camera footage first. So that is an issue. I think also here in Wilmington and throughout the state, we can do better with enforcing policies like a duty to intervene. If you are an officer that does not intervene, it should be disciplinary actions involved with that. You cannot just stand by and watch someone take someone's life.
That's right. That's right.
And when it comes to these shootings in our community, we should also make sure that we're doing the job to bring out resources, mental health specialists, for the community that witnessed this. There's a lot of trauma in our community right now. There's a lot of trauma in our community right now. So there is a lot of work that we have left to do here on council, but there's also work that needs to be done down in Dover, and I hope that they are paying attention to this. Carlton, when we first brought Carlton to Delaware years ago, he has been a huge asset to us, but yet the state and the city has continued to ignore his recommendation.
Yeah.
This is what we're dealing with right now. But to the community, keep on fighting, keep putting pressure on them, and hopefully we can get some things changed. But it's not going to happen if the community goes silent.
That's right.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Owen. Any other council members? Council President Congo?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to just follow up on some of the things that Councilmember Owens just touched on. But first, I want to thank the community just for your voice. It's been very, very impactful, and we appreciate you. And it's really embarrassing to hear Mr. Carlton be here. I think it's for the third time, maybe. And
maybe more.
Yeah, and just to hear him, to know what he can bring to our city and to our police department as far as accountability. And we're just sitting up here listening to him again. I know he has to be frustrated. And to know that our administration hasn't and probably won't engage him is very, very frustrating. But again, I just encourage the community to pay attention to who is speaking up politically, whether it's on the state level, whether it's on the state level, on the city level, whether it's on the county level. I think that more of us should be speaking out. And elections are coming up in September, and I encourage you all to question where state officials stand on Leobor. Get them to say it publicly, because it's very, very important that we know who we are sending to Dover. And again, I just want to thank the community. I don't know, it's just very, very frustrating times and embarrassing statistics that were presented us this evening. 33%. And we all know that we're over-policed here in the city. But just to see it and hear it again, and to know that it'll probably go unheard, I don't know, it's I guess the word for me is frustrating. But again, just hold us accountable. Remember election days. And thank you, Councilmember Darby, for everything that you do. Thank you.
Councilmember Willauer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say I wanted to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and thank thank Chair Darby for holding this meeting. And we've heard a lot about policy changes that need to happen, and I know that that is our role, and we need to work on that. But I wanted to take this moment myself just to let the Skinner family know that you deserve answers. And you know, I did watch the video that was released, and as a mom, it's just heartbreaking to see Kadir Skinner. And we need to know, you know, what is the protocol to save somebody's life who's in that situation. And so I commit to making sure that we follow through on making sure that those, you know, what are those protocols and are they followed, and making sure that that another life is not lost in that way. And beyond that, there's other policies that we need to follow up on. So I'm here with our other council members to make sure that we do pay attention to what you've brought, and also what some of the people, national experts that Councilwoman Darby's brought to this conversation. But obviously we need to make some changes.
Yes, thank you. And I think Councilman Bracy, is she still on? Oh, no, okay, all right, cool. All right, I don't think she has her hand up.
I'm here, Madam Chair. I'm here.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't know if you had any comments or concerns or questions.
No, just thank you for all of the community members that came out to express their concerns, and for all of the folks that presented. We appreciate you taking the time to come out. And hopefully we can see some changes happen in the General Assembly in the upcoming cycle, or, you know, so, but thanks for calling this meeting.
Of course. Thank you, Councilmember Bracy. I just want to say one thank you for the council colleagues that did show up. I know we are on council break, you know, that was Thursday. But I couldn't imagine waiting until the end of August to have this conversation when the time was now. And for us, while we are on this break, we might not meet, but we can start drafting some of this legislation. We can start pressuring the administration to actually pay for the audit to happen. So there are things that we can do right now while we're on our break, even though we're not meeting, to hold the administration and our other council colleagues accountable to making sure this gets across the line. I know that we have one more person online, Lisa Torres. I don't know if she's available to talk still.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity. I didn't know I would get a chance to talk. I just want to give my condolences to Kadir Skinner's family, and just put in the conversation that I think transparency and accountability and everything that is put forward is definitely something that we need. But we also need to look at our school systems and how children are treated in the city of Wilmington. I think there has been initiative to rectify some of the policies that were created during the Jim Crow laws, but through the Reading Consortium. But I think we need to keep an eye on that so that way our babies in schools do not feel over policed. They feel that they are supported, and we really foster a community that approaches restorative practices and dignity in our schools. And that is something that the justice system can look into as well. I know in Baltimore, they definitely did some great work with restorative practices in the justice system. So that's something to consider as well, because there has been a lot of harm and there continues to be harm with certain policies in place. And I think we need to have some restorative justice in order to heal as a community. So thank you for the opportunity to talk.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Torres. That is the end of our public comment, and this is actually the end of our meeting. Thank you guys again. I know my council colleagues here, council president, will continue to hold our administration accountable to getting these things that we talked about tonight across the line. So if you guys need us, please reach out. Have a good night, Wilmington. Oh, do we adjourn? I gotta do all that. I forgot.
I'd like to make.
I'd like to make. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Any second? Hey, motion carried. Thank you. Good night.